John Razimus Hughston here. Thank you for checking out the channel. More videos are coming soon. Update on the channel. I will be making more videos. The pandemic has affected everyone differently. Some people have tons of time. I'm the exact opposite. I moved to a different state, moved to a different house, got a job. Next week I work 45 hours, very busy. And then when I get home, I'm dead tired. I haven't even unpacked from the move. And I wanted to put up some cool paintings here and whatnot. And that was 3 months ago. And so every project is taking a lot of time. I thought a quick update video would be a lot easier to do. I still am going to investigate spirits, investigate ghosts. Mysterialis Ghost Investigation, MGI. I consider myself to be the prominent, one of the best, if not the best, ghost hunter, ghost investigator on the planet. And that may not seem like much because many people make fun of the subject. Just recalling right here on the fly. But on I Can See Your Voice, I believe that's what it's called, there was a ghost hunter character. And he could not, spoiler alert, he could not sing at all. He was horrendously bad at singing. He sucked, all right? The guy guessed that he could sing great, and he sang horribly. And in his reveal video behind the scenes, he was using a $14.99, $9.99, $5.99. I've seen this device as cheap as $4.99, all right? With free shipping from China, okay? It's not exactly top-of-the-line ghost investigation equipment, all right? So he's wearing what looks like cosplay of a Ghostbusters movie character, but a cheap cosplay of just wearing a janitor jumpsuit. And then he's holding, in the video of him ghost investigating at home, he's holding just a cheap made-in-China $4.99 device, which you will see people attempt to sell it at $50, but it's really a dirt cheap $4.99 piece of garbage EMF meter. Does it work? Maybe. I don't know. But it's a toy made for kids, basically. And it showed me his level of what he considers a ghost hunter is and what Hollywood considers a ghost hunter is. Anyone that buys a $4.99 device on the internet, they're automatically a ghost hunter. I mean, I'm one that believes if you have sensitive abilities, you don't even need equipment. I told the guy at the Viper Room, the bartender, who was also in a band, he said, no, you can't really bring ghost hunting equipment in here. I didn't even ask if I could. I asked if I could investigate. He assumed I was talking about ghost hunting equipment, bringing all this equipment, which apparently maybe I could see other ghost hunters ask the same question, be denied. I said, no, I don't even need equipment. I'm sensitive enough where I could tell if a space is haunted. I told him, this place feels like it is pretty haunted. But could I explore around a little bit? And he said, yeah, you can go over here, go over there. You can go in the basement if you want. And then right as he said I can go in the basement, I was about to consider, oh yeah, let's go. I did walk around, but then when he said he'd go to the basement, his boss showed up, and he's like, oh, ixnay on the basement, you know. But he's a nice guy. He was going to allow me to check out the basement. The basement is where some ghosts will cliche hang out and actually hang out. Most definitely. I've seen some horrific footage on different ghost shows, including Ghost Adventures, where the basement is the hive of activity, is the focal point of activity. Here is one of my cases. I bought a bunch of cases, 2 big ones, 2 small ones. Here's the 2 small ones. and then a medium one. This small one's empty. I'm going to put something in it soon. This one has the GoPros and the three 2015 Panasonic infrared cameras. They're not alternatives to GoPro. GoPros are alternatives to them, if you will, which don't do what these can do, which is why I bought 3 of them. Infrared cameras are extremely important in a ghost hunting investigation. The reason I consider myself, I don't like to say I'm above anyone else. No one's above anyone else, but people are more talented than other people. Kanye West is more talented than me when it comes to producing music, when it comes to making beats, when it comes to making a song that's going to be a hit, okay? No one would deny that. He's more talented at that than I am by a long shot. And in that vein, I would say I can ghost investigate better than most anyone on planet Earth, because I know the tiny key things such as infrared cameras being extremely important. You know, humans are very weak, very fickle, very scared, very afraid of things they always have been since childhood. Infrared cameras designed to be seen in pitch blackness with infrared flashlights, which I picked 5 of these up for like $3 a piece, $2.99 each, something to that effect. They work perfectly. When I film in infrared, pitch blackness, and I can only see my surroundings in a tiny viewfinder, which is emitting a little bit of light to my eyeball. Spirits can manifest as mist forms. I've seen it firsthand. Well, more specifically, my camera has seen it firsthand, and I saw it in the replay. But I've never seen such manifestations in natural light, in regular light, with a regular flashlight. Humans are scared of the dark, all right? So they're going to avoid to walk around in a dark room in the dark using only a viewfinder. I've seen Ghost Adventures guys just walk around in pitch black darkness. They know the importance of it. But I've noticed they kind of have distanced themselves, at least in the last 10 episodes. Less and less you'll see them pitch black in a room with full infrared. That's the way I do it. I literally only turn on a regular flashlight when I want to 1,000% confirm to the viewer for future reference that nothing's here. All right, we looked at the whole space in infrared light. Let's look at it with regular light. Nothing's here. For example, wires, animals, whatever the case may be. When you walk around with pitch blackness, spirits that can see perfectly in pitch blackness, they treat you different. They treat humans different that are walking around in pitch blackness. Because for a split second, that human sees as they see to an extent, perfectly in pitch blackness. Maybe they're more free to manifest in pitch blackness. I've seen that on many occasions. And I've made the analogy many times. A spirit will almost act like a nocturnal animal will act to a human in pitch blackness. And that exact same nocturnal animal will run and hide from the human in broad daylight. Just think of a deer, for example, a raccoon, an owl. They see a human walk around in broad daylight, they're going to keep their great distance because they know the human has perfect vision in broad daylight. But that same human walking in that same area in pitch blackness, the nocturnal animals are more nonchalant. They're like, that human can't even see in pitch blackness. They know from experience, from observing humans, that we cannot see in pitch blackness. But with technology, we now have that ability. It greatly affects investigations. Your results will go up dramatically. I have a couple other cases. I'll show them in the future. with my main pieces of equipment. I don't want to open them up. I happen to have a keyboard on top of it. It's too much work to even show this, but I will in a future video, I promise. What am I working on? I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 on a PC. I've been playing the game probably 120 hours so far in the space of since it came out. When did it come out? December 10th. So in the space of a month and a couple days, a month and a week, I've, every weekend, and my weekends are not regular weekends, and my days do not connect. My days off do not connect. Today's my day off, tomorrow is not, yesterday was not. So as you can see, I don't have the best schedule for filming. I did get Gary Galka's Ghost Investigation Spirit Box from his Pro Measure website. I ordered it and it arrived literally less than 1 week. Rocketed to my front porch in seconds, it seems, compared to, let's say, other devices I've ordered. Not going to name the other devices. Everyone has COVID experiences that have slowed them down, understandably. But Gary Galka's Pro Measure company, highly recommend it. I have not turned this on yet. So let me at least do this unboxing. This is legitimately the first unboxing. I've never unboxed this. It's called the PSB7T Spirit Box, the ITC research device. This is the new model. I don't know how new, but it's newer than the old model. And just the model itself, the original or this, was recommended to me by Sam Shadow. So shout out to Sam Shadow. Thank you for recommending this device. I will give it a shot, but I'm not going to give it a shot in my house. I will go to a location that I think might get good results. We'll see what happens. If nothing happens, you probably won't see the video. So maybe I'll have to film a couple locations until I get a good video with good data, and then I'll share it with you. But Sam Shadow recommended this. He has, I believe, the original version. Maybe he has this version. I don't know the difference between the versions, other than this version has a red light and maybe the other one doesn't. I don't know. But it comes with Panasonic batteries. That's cool. It comes with headphones. Well, I'm probably not going to use headphones. No. It's nice that it's included. But I am going to, it's not a refurb. This is made by Gary Galka's company, DAS Distribution Incorporated, says on the back. And it is a professional piece of ghost hunting equipment. ITC research device, P-SB7T Spirit Box. Gonna give it a shot, but not in my house. I don't turn on ghost investigation equipment in my house, ever, period. I did in my previous house, but even then, just for a few seconds after the corners of rooms experiment. I had about 4 corners of rooms experiments, something to that effect. Don't know what that spirit was, who it was, not too interested. The less you know about a spirit, the less I believe it can really invade your space. Who knows, I think there are wandering spirits all over the place. I think there are literally dozens of spirits all over the place at all times. I wouldn't go so far as to some religions that claim there are millions of spirits everywhere, but some religions do claim that. Kind of a scary thought. But really, it's not scary. When I found out for the first time that spirits are real, I would have been a child. I found out as a kid. but they weren't negative. I had positive experiences of a positive nature. So I really didn't learn that negative spirits existed until, I probably would have assumed he was an innocent ghost here, an innocent Casper there. I didn't learn they were negative until some very negative things happened to me, which I've thoroughly talked about to the point where it's documented in a stack of pages this high if I were to transcribe it. But I will check this out. I will turn it on, not in my house. I know some people have an altar and they have stuff, and it's no different really, if you think about it, than my Corners of Rooms experiment, where I basically had an altar, if you will, a table with a bunch of ghost investigation equipment devices set up in that corner, and I turned them on and I talked about ghost hunting stories, or more specifically just ghost stories in general, spirit contact stories, and the devices went off. I do believe I will be successful with this, but I am a researcher. I'm not going to see, this jumps from radio station to radio station. I hear it is, from the Ghost Adventures guys, they cut off the antenna. So this is the first time I've ever extended this telescopic antenna. I know Zach Bagans said he had his cut off to further prove that he's not picking up a radio station. Although, let's face it, even without the antenna, you can pick up radio stations. And that's what spirit boxes originated as, from my understanding. You would hear someone basically go down the scan list, and then someone learned how to speed it up. I'm sure it's technologically very simple, but I couldn't do that. I'm not electronically inclined when it comes to radios and stuff like that, but the basic scan feature, you're scanning through radio stations. And so, especially if you're on AM, you're going to hit religious stations over and over and over. So you're going to hit a pastor talking about heaven and hell, angels and the devil. Where are you? Heaven. See, that was just an AM station getting to a religious channel, and the guy's talking about heaven for like 10 hours straight on a pre-recorded sermon. And the chances of you getting heaven as a response, very likely. But spirits have the ability, according to this spirit box technology, to filter through and use the voices of radio stations to produce voices. Kind of like Bumblebee in the Transformers movies. He couldn't talk without a radio station talking and saying what he wanted to say. But it's evolved way past that, where actual voices having nothing to do with radio stations come through these devices. But because they are connected to sweeping radio stations or radio channels, radio frequencies, theoretically it could be a voice from a DJ, from a pre-recorded sermon, from anyone with a CB radio. Theoretically, right? That creates an atmosphere of deniability. It creates the deniability factor. Negative entities, I'll just flat out say what you already know. They love to engage, but they're always looking for that deniability angle. So when you do, or if you do, capture any evidence, and this sounds like a cop-out from the perspective of the non-believer, the disbeliever, but it's a real factor. It's a real reality on how these entities, the mischievous, trickster, devious ones, they will literally look for a deniability angle, and they'll reveal themselves. They'll show themselves. I'm gonna kill you. Whatever they're gonna say, I don't know. I'm a little, I have to admit, I'm a little bit, I talked about fear and being scared earlier. And, I'm not gonna turn it on in my house. But I'm not gonna turn it on in my house not because I'm scared. I'm not going to turn it into my house because I don't want it to affect other people living in the house, even down to the animals living in the house. I don't want negative entities to bother them because of something I did. I do believe you can open a portal by turning on this equipment. Yet I have thousands of dollars worth of this equipment that I plan on using somewhere else, hopefully many miles down the road. And I realistically understand if I drive back home, they could follow me. I could tell you this. I'm not scared of them following me. Trying to capture some evidence outweighs anything when you've been harassed as many years as I have. Luckily, I've experienced minimal activity in this house. The activity I have experienced in this house, so minimal, not worth talking about. But the experience I have experienced in this house, I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to encourage it to ever happen again. I want this house to be a place of solace and peace. Even doing this video, I don't want to encourage any negative entities to bother me. They're not welcome here in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to set up any corners of rooms experiments. I'm not going to turn on any ghost hunting equipment here. It's never going to happen. I have this equipment to go to other locations and try to capture something there and then come back. So I have no impression that this place is haunted without living whatsoever. No impression whatsoever. I heard something here or there. I heard probably one thing, maybe twice, in this house. Could have been nothing. So I am open to the possibility of, could have been the wind, could have been the structure, could have been just a windy day and the structure isn't the most sound structure in the universe and you hear a creak during a really tough storm type of situation. So I'm open-minded to very logical explanations. I'm open-minded to science. I love capturing science, recording it, and showing you here's a scientific angle. But I have some spiritual angle that has nothing to do with something you can record. I watched the last 2 Ghost Adventures episodes. I guess Travel Channel? Travel Channel has a new streaming. I have a bunch of new streaming channels now. I have HBO Max. I'm not going to brag about all the ones I have. HBO Max. What do I recommend on HBO Max? I mean, the Prophecy 1, the Prophecy 2, the Prophecy 3, and the Prophecy 4 I just watched today. 1, 2, and 3, they're worth watching because of Christopher Walken. But 4, and I haven't watched 5 yet, but I got to finish it because I don't know how long I'm going to keep my HBO Max subscription. But on Travel Channel Plus, I don't know, they have Plus at the end of them, but we have Disney Plus, watched all the Mandalorian episodes, of course. Travel Channel Plus, I think is what it's called, but the Travel Channel streaming service has all of the Ghost Adventures episodes. I've already watched 90% of every Ghost Adventures episode. I think I haven't watched every episode in season 1 and 2. Maybe I stopped around there, something like that. After watching 50 episodes of Ghost Adventures, all right, I learned a few things. All right, one thing I learned was maybe spirits move in tunnels, even if those tunnels are buried by sand. They'll still move from tunnel to tunnel. That's totally collapsed and buried. They'll still go through it. No big deal. They're spirits. What's a totally collapsed tunnel going to stop them from using it? They're spirits. But tunnels seem to be something spirits are attracted to. So I investigated the Tucson Tunnel. Totally original video. No one's ever investigated that tunnel, ever. In the history of ever. I'm the first one ever to do it. Find evidence of anyone doing it before me, at least on camera or on any video device, audio device recorded. And I received the best EVPs I've ever received at that Tucson Tunnel. Because I got the idea, after seeing 2 Ghost Adventures episodes, that spirits might use tunnels. Because there were 2 haunted houses. I believe they're across the street from each other. and they're owned by the same guy. So they had permission to investigate both houses. And the houses were connected by an underground tunnel that was partially collapsed. Very interesting. Then there was another episode with tunnels. And you see the Ghost Adventures crew say, tunnels. And then they continue with the investigation without even mentioning once. See, I try to be more scientific at my approach. I tried to connect the dots. Okay, tunnels, let's investigate. That's something you can focus on. I see the Ghost Adventures crew use equipment, tons of equipment, but they don't use it on a scientific level. Scientific is repeated in the exact location, at the exact time, the exact piece of equipment, what's the exact temperature, what are the exact conditions, what are the exact settings, what is the exact this, A, B, C, D. Let's record it on a piece of paper, come back a year later, come back a month later, come back a week later, 24 hours later, 74 hours later, whatever the case, and record, see if it's changed. The closest thing to science that I've ever seen them conduct would have been using a Polaroid camera in the same spot twice. And that's a good approach. But they never seem to repeat scientific experiments in the same spot with the same conditions, or at least even attempt. I've never seen it. Maybe they have. They did go to the Winchester Mystery House twice. Maybe they attempted to recreate something. It's hard with the etheric reality of spirits being so hard to contain. You can't put them in a laboratory. The closest to a laboratory that you will get to putting a spirit in a bottle, I personally don't believe in any of the religious beliefs that you can put a spirit in a bottle. There are many religions that believe you can put a spirit in a bottle. Believe it or not, there are dozens of religions. No disrespect to them. I just personally don't think you could do it. And I believe spirits exist. But I don't think they can be contained like that. The closest thing to a lab or a bottle that you can trap a spirit in is the house or space or room, basement, whatever the case, that they're already haunting. That's the closest thing to trapping them. They've already chosen that space to trap themselves in, or perhaps they've been assigned to that location to haunt it, whatever the case. I think spirits work on a level way beyond humans' understanding. I'll give you an example. The Comedy Store. Let me do a review of the 2 episodes I saw on Ghost Adventures, the last 2 episodes. Cecil Hotel and the Comedy Store. So I guess we could start with the Cecil Hotel. Cecil Hotel. I actually stayed at the Cecil Hotel, and I have the receipt. And at the time, it was called something else. They changed the name, trying to distance themselves from just the old Cecil Hotel. Whoever bought it wanted to be known as something else. And they bought hand chairs, and every room, as far as I know, had a hand chair in it, making it hip and cool for the kids. Anyway, I stayed there New Year's Eve 2008, somewhere around that time frame. And this was actually before the famous incident of the girl who went missing and wound up in the water tank on the roof. Horrific story, very sad. And that's obviously the attraction for the Ghost Adventures crew to investigate the place. But the context is I was actually there before. And I never knew it had anything to do with some killer. That's another reason Zach Bagans was interested in the Cecil Hotel, because apparently 2 different killers famously lived there, stayed there. I never knew any of that information. Back in 2008, I could tell you this, I wasn't thinking about ghosts. I was sensitive to ghosts existing and spirits existing. I was sensitive to it. But I had 2 guests with me, and one of them was rowdy, and we went to a rave of all things. We went to a rave Tiesto, I think it's Tiesto, was the DJ for the rave in Los Angeles, and we stayed at the cheapest place I could find, the Cecil Hotel, which had a different name. I think it remains to have that different name, and I think it's closed to this day. I remember they closed for a long time, but I happened to get in there before they closed. And this rowdy guest of my other guest, they brought a friend, and they didn't want to pay for a room, which I assume they're going to get their own room. So I had to pay an additional like $30 for them to sleep in the room. And that's why I kept the receipt, because they owed me like $30, whatever the case, doesn't matter. But I still have the receipt somewhere. I saw it literally a couple months ago. I was like, wow, okay, I have proof I stayed there. And Ghost Adventures. Interesting episode, especially the killers, especially the EVP responses on devices like this. I'm sure they used other EVP devices. Whenever you get a crystal clear EVP on like 16 radio cycles, stations, sweeps, it's a freaking spirit, all right? If it's crystal clear, yeah, I'm Bob, how's it going? I mean, that's not a CB radio guy on a truck talking, all right? That's not a radio station DJ, okay? That's not a guy with a walkie-talkie, okay? Because all of those things are one single radio station, okay? The DJ is on one station. The guy with the walkie-talkie is on one single transmission wavelength. The guy with the CB radio, same thing. He's on one frequency. You would, if it was any of those things, you would hear. You wouldn't hear a full sentence of, hey, I'm Bob, how's it going? You wouldn't hear that. Why do spirits act so blasé and nonchalant when they're talking to the Ghost Adventures crew via spirit boxes? Because, all right, in my opinion, they're negative entities. Only a negative entity would be so carefree and be like, hey, how's it going? Only a negative entity would talk like that. An actual human ghost would be like, hey, I got some important information. Dead men tell no tales, I guess. Unless they're using a spirit box, right? I think it's negative entities, just my opinion. They go to a bunch of different places. They get some psychics that see visions of pentagrams on the water tower. Interesting visually, no proof such a pentagram on the water tower existed, but interesting stories, interesting storytelling. So the show kind of relies on a lot of storytelling. I understand they want to do like a history background. As far as me, I focus more on the evidence and the data and the science. Interesting episode, but And I understand my previous review of a Ghost Adventures episode got views for the singular purpose of people thinking I'm going to illegally play the entire episode and just watch it, like those reaction channels. Nope. If I do a reaction, it's going to be me talking about it and 0% showing anything. Go out and subscribe to Travel Channel Plus, Discovery Plus, History Channel Plus, HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu. We're talking Netflix. We're talking Tubi. We're talking Peacock. You're going to want to subscribe to every single one of these streaming stations. Reminds me of Max Headroom. Max Headroom greatly predicted. The 1987 TV show, 14 episodes, 1 hour long each, 14 hours of the greatest cyberpunk show ever made. Speaking of cyberpunk, the game Cyberpunk does have an homage to Max Headroom. It's extremely obscure. But one of the first waiting screens to getting to your save game is a desolate garbage waste dump type atmosphere with a guy, I think, sitting in a truck or something to that effect, and a TV in front of him. And it's an old-fashioned square TV. And in 1987 Max Headroom, that was like the intro, outro to the show. At least I remember seeing it in the intro and sometimes the outro. You would see like a waste dump, which was a cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic type, futuristic Mad Max type world, but with TVs still existing everywhere. So unlike Mad Max, the Max Headroom universe had TV networks running the world, and everyone had a TV. TVs were mandatory. There were no switches to turn off TVs. So that's very similar. Probably they got the idea of that from 1984, I believe. 1984, you also couldn't turn off TVs. So Max Headroom incorporates these cyberpunk themes from other sources. And Edison Carter, the main character who hits his head and his consciousness becomes Max Headroom, he puts a towel over his TV when he goes to sleep because there's no off button. Anyway, let's review the Comedy Store episode of Ghost Adventures. I have an insight into this episode I think no other human does. I was there and I did an investigation of the Comedy Store in 2018. It was October 2018. And I think it was a good time and a bad time. It was good because no pandemic. I was able to watch and be there for 3 full days. My investigation would have been 72 hours. I probably would have had 3 nights of lockdowns if they let me investigate, but they didn't want me to investigate in any way, shape, or form. They greatly made fun of me. They're comedians. It's their job to greatly make fun of me. I put it out there that I'm a ghost hunter on the side for fun as a hobby. No big deal. And I was greatly ridiculed for that. No big deal. Hilarious. Ha ha ha. I didn't mention it to everyone. I only mentioned it to one of the comedians who obviously told the other comedians. And when I say comedians, I'm talking about the late night ones that stayed until closing. Not the A-listers or anything. Do A-listers even drop by? I guess they do. Chris Rock will definitely drop by, and Dave Chappelle would definitely drop by during this time frame. I didn't have the privilege of seeing them, but I did see some amazing comedians that I didn't expect I would see. I saw the Dice Man. That was the highlight of my investigation. I got to see the Dice Man give an amazing original. He was like working on new material, and I was laughing more than anyone else. And so he asked me what my name was, asked me where I was from, asked me if I had a girlfriend. He was really asking me questions, And his set was hilarious. Why was it so hilarious? Because of how he was trying it out and he didn't care if it worked or not. That's what made it 10 times funnier to me. Because the other comedians were so desperate to get a laugh that it almost made the joke less funny. But when the Dice Man told this joke about stealing and how the 10 Commandments were written before you could steal anything worth stealing. What are you going to steal, rocks? That was one of his jokes, and I can't deliver it like he can deliver it, okay? I'm not a comedian. The aspirations of being a comedian are probably similar to the aspirations of being a ghost hunter. It's never the first choice. It's like the last choice. So yeah, I guess in the past I would have considered maybe I could be a comedian. Maybe I could. Nah, I'm not. Comedic timing. Either have it or you don't. I think the funniest routine I would give would be just my eyeballs. Just being dead silent. Doing something with my eyes. So I investigated 3 nights. 3 nights in a row. I stayed at the historic Hollywood Hotel and drove to the Comedy Store to investigate / watch and paid 2 drinks minimum for every single show I went to. So I did spend a lot of money on drinks. I even did the math before I got there. Okay, I'll spend $100 on drinks. Okay, it's for a good purpose. I want to know if Gus the Ghost exists. At the end of my investigation, which was 3 nights worth, literally, we're talking night 1. I was there from like 7 p.m. to like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m., maybe 1 a.m. I can't remember. See, the show ended when people got tired, including the comedians got tired, and they kicked us out. We're done, go home. Same thing the next night, same thing the next night. And so that's how they regularly operate. They go as late as they're fun, as late as they want to perform, and then, let's get out of here. And the late shows are free, I suppose, to locals. I didn't know this, otherwise I might have gone to the late shows for free. Anyway, I'm giving you background on how the Comedy Store operates. I went to the belly room, I watched a show, 2 drink minimum. I went to the original room 2 nights in a row. I went to the original room 3 nights in a row. And out of those 3 nights, I went to the belly room 1 night and then back to the original room. The main room was never open on the nights I selected because I stupidly went there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the least popular days. So the whole pandemic happens, the place closes down. They've said no to every single ghost investigator except for Zach Bagans after he begs a million times, and they're closed. And he says, come on, I want to show my respects. And so even Zach Bagans, a millionaire, even he has to tiptoe and beg to investigate this place. You can see old YouTube videos. There is one ghost crew that investigated the Comedy Store a number of years ago. In the past 10 years, they investigated it. And they did a good job. They didn't have overnight lockdowns. They didn't sleep there. Neither did the Ghost Adventures crew. They didn't sleep there. And clearly Zach Bagans watched as many YouTube videos as he could on the subject. I just think it's funny that there's a chance he watched some of my videos. And me investigating the Comedy Store has nothing to do with Zach Bagans saying he wanted to, although I did have that information before I went there. I was like, oh, they wanted to. They're going to say no to me anyway. I'm just going to enjoy some shows and see if I can get a feel of the atmosphere. But a good 20 minutes before the 3-day investigation is over, Gus the Ghost appeared as a sparkly light. I would say, speaking of, the 6 feet distance you're supposed to keep from people during this quarantine, during this pandemic, Gus the Ghost was about 6 feet to my right. So it wasn't a sparkling light like in my face. It was in my peripheral, about 6 feet away. I turned and it disappeared every time. Now, it probably disappeared every time because only my peripheral could see it. They do say your peripheral can see different things, and some theorize can see different dimensions. And some people have even gone so far as to train their peripheral to see stronger. I've never gone to that extent. I would not. Even for ghost investigating, I would not, because I would be fearful that it would damage my regular vision. So I don't recommend that. Don't even look it up. I heard that on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell a long time ago. True story. But, and the guy wasn't even looking for spirits. He was looking to see aliens out of the corner of his eye. He said, you can see aliens out of the corner of your eye. Interesting information. I heard that like in 1999. So that's really old information. Just wanted to bring that to the forefront of I saw something out of the corner of my eye. A lot of people see shadow people out of the corner of their eye. 20 minutes before I am kicked out. Everyone's technically kicked out at the end of every single night. But it's a little more personal. They really didn't want me to ghost investigate the place. So they really made sure to say, you got to go, to me. Even though they said it to everybody, they were particularly cruel to me because they saw me with a Mel meter the day before that, walking around the sidewalk, which is totally legal. You can hold an EMF detector on any public sidewalk. But the second that EMF detector is detecting ghosts, people get paranoid and scared. I did get one hit on the location that was supposedly hit by that tragic comedian and they talked about that in the Ghost Adventures episode. They talked about many things you will see in many videos. They barely skimmed the surface of what Bobby Lee talked about on Gus the Ghost. At the Comedy Store in person, the comedians told me that Bobby Lee was talking out of his ass. Bobby Lee was just joking. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He wasn't being serious. But they don't understand. Bobby Lee has gone on many podcasts, including his own podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast, Joey Diaz's podcast. He's literally gone around saying, my house was haunted. I grew up in a haunted house. The hallway was haunted. I know what legitimate spirit haunting is like. It wasn't foreign to me. I'm actually used to it to an extent. And he said, Comedy Store is haunted. And he went into detail on how he saw Gus the Ghost as he was picking up his car one night, at 3 a.m. So Bobby Lee goes to a comedy club with his friend, leaves his car at the Comedy Store, takes his friend's car, very common in the comedy world. They carpool. And he said as he's picking up his car, which is a tiny parking lot of 10 spots or less, maybe 6 spots, Bobby Lee and regulars have the privilege of parking there. Other people do not. He sees a glowing face and glowing hands in the window of the office of the Comedy Store. And the guy saw it as well. So that's 2 people saw it. And I wish I knew the name of that guy because it would be nice to get another witness. And it wasn't just some comedian talking out of his butt, But in the Ghost Adventures episode, Zach Bagans mentions Bobby Lee once, fleetingly. Zach Bagans kisses the butt of Bob Ross. Is his name Bob Ross? Jeffrey Ross? Something Ross. He's the roast master on all the Comedy Central roasts. Donald Trump, Snoop Dogg, Martha Stewart, whatever the case, all these roasts. Is it Jeff Ross? Bob Ross. Bob Ross is the famous painter. I accidentally said Bob Ross, but what I meant was Jeff Ross. And Jeff Ross, off the cuff, he's a pretty funny guy. He's funnier than the late night, you gotta go home crew. He's actually, TV quality comedian. He's actually funny. But you see on the episode, Zach Bagans specifically kiss his butt the whole episode. The reason he's kissing his butt is because he wants to be invited back to the Comedy Store. Understandably, I'd probably do the exact same thing after they treated me like they treated me. They treated me like I was a plague to the place. But a little bit of context, the owner of the Comedy Store passed away. And so it was a delicate situation, a delicate time when I went there in 2018. I went there in October 2018. Delicate time, the owner just passed away. They might be thinking I want to investigate the owner's ghost. Couldn't be farther from the truth, and I don't even believe human ghosts hang out anywhere on planet Earth at the places they hung out at. It's a logical conclusion a lot of ghost hunters jump to. It's a conclusion I do not jump to. That's what separates me from other ghost hunters, okay? I actually have extreme pieces of information, and I don't share it with everybody. And it's what separates me. I think it's negative entities 99.999% of the time. I think 0.0001% of the time, it can be human ghosts saying bye to a loved one, saying goodbye to a loved one. A lot of religions talk about a 3-day window, 3-week window, whatever the case. But after that window, however big or small it is over, is gone. And I don't think it has anything to do with a cremation or a burial. After this window of death transpires and expires, the spirit can no longer say goodbye, I think, is probably some kind of dimensional portal boundary. And so I don't think human spirits, human ghosts, can hang out at the Comedy Store and watch comedy routines. I don't think they can do it. Maybe from a higher dimension, they can look down and do it, view down from a higher dimension. But I don't think human ghosts hang out in the Comedy Store. I think it's negative entities 100%. I think the Cecil Hotel, negative entities 100%. I'll say at the Cecil Hotel, they said that the girl, her last name was Lamb, Alyssa Lamb, something to that effect. I don't have the story memorized. They said her voice came through. Oh, no, it's me. And then there's a male voice saying, Alyssa Lamb. And, it's a demon saying that because that's what they want to hear. If it's real. I believe the Ghost Adventures crew have integrity. I do believe their evidence is real. Just from observing them. Aaron Goodwin told a joke at the Comedy Store. Understandably, I would bomb at the Comedy Store, although I did get some laughs at the Comedy Store. They handed the mic to me a couple times, and yes, they're patronizing me. Yes, they're making fun of me. But I actually got a couple jokes, which ticked them off, because I was the joke. And the fact that I got a couple jokes, kind of them trying to make fun of me, bounced off, and I was actually the comedian for a few seconds. I told a couple crude jokes because I got the impression people only laugh at really crude, disgusting jokes. And I got the impression Gus the Ghost has really crude and disgusting tastes in jokes. I literally got the impression, and this is just a guess, that Gus the Ghost enjoys super disgusting crude jokes. And he also loves when the comedians bomb and it's crickets and nobody laughs. Just get in the mindset of a demon stuck at a Comedy Store, watching dumb humans, as Christopher Walken says in the Prophecy movies, watching these monkeys, these lowly human beings, totally different species from a demon, watching these lowly humans tell jokes for years and years and years and years, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Do you think this demon is going to have the same tastes as the average human? I heard people laugh at disgusting jokes. And what kind of made me chuckle was when the comedian bombed. Full circle. I've never mentioned this. Let me talk about full circle. I did once write a good 20 jokes on a piece of paper. It took me probably 2 months worth of work. I really worked on it. To say I wanted to be an aspiring comedian for 2 months is true. And I dropped it because I'm not funny, all right? But an example of me being extremely not funny. Let me just tell one of the jokes I wrote. I'm recalling when I wrote the joke, okay? I might have rewritten it in 04, 05, but I wrote the joke in 2002. Okay, 2002, 2003. I got a pretty good memory. I wrote the joke in 2002 or 2003. I think I polished it up in 2004, 2005. So when I say I worked on a comedy routine for 2 months, that's true. So why did I write it for a span of 4 years? Because I kept a little tiny notebook this big in my pocket, and I wrote down any idea that popped into my mind after I heard Jerry Seinfeld say, I heard him say this many years ago. I heard Jerry Seinfeld interviewed probably in 1999, 2000. Jerry Seinfeld said, good comedians write down everything. They write down every idea that pops into their head. And if they happen to have a funny idea or a funny observation, they got it. There's the joke. But if you don't have a pen and a paper, you're not a comedian. On the level of my observation comedy, I just simply write everything down. So I remembered that, and I didn't want to use it on any comedy level. I was literally just going to use it in conversation to human beings, not on a stage with a mic, just to friends and family. As, a joke, tell a joke here and there. But I'm a really odd person, all right? So my jokes will always fall flat, my timing is wrong, and I'll say it at the wrong time, to the wrong person, in the wrong place, and it'll fall flat and bomb 100% of the time. I guess someone caught hold of my papers of jokes and they laughed as they read them. But that person has a dark, twisted sense of humor. So perhaps that's why they're laughing. Maybe because they're so bad. But I can tell you this, one of my worst jokes, I will tell it right now, is this. I'll tell it from memory. I wrote about 2002, 2003, polished it up in 04, 05, got the paper of it somewhere around here, even typed it up. The joke is this. Okay, I'll just tell a couple jokes, and they're horrendously bad, all right? Just know there's no punchline. It's just like an observation. I like restaurants where you can control the ice. You know those fast food joints where you got to ask for a free refill? They control the ice on their side of the divider. Their side, you can't control the ice. I like restaurants, fast food restaurants, where you have control of putting one ice cube in there. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of someone that's going to put 1,000 ice cubes in there, one drop of soda. I like fast food restaurants where you can control the ice. As you can see, that's more of a premise of a joke, totally unpolished, not funny. That's just an example of some of the observations I wrote down in this book. But probably really close to that one would have been this observation, because I noticed it time and time again. It made me laugh, so I wrote it down. This is an actual observation. Driving by, I donated to, or maybe someone with me, I don't even know. I'm helping someone donate to the Goodwill, and maybe I donate a bag of old cruddy shirts. I don't know. But my friend is donating, a bag of cruddy clothes they don't want to wear, And as bad as we feel for donating the worst clothes we'll never wear again, we see a mattress with springs popping out of it with yellow stains all over it. The most disgusting mattress you've ever seen in your life, probably has bed bugs, probably has bugs living in it. The springs are popping out. The wood's all cracking and popping. It's all shades of yellow. The most disgusting mattress you've ever seen in your life. And someone donated it to the Goodwill out of the kindness of their heart. So generous. The only reason I'm able to tell that joke, that observation, with such detail is because, as you can see, I wrote it and polished it up. This version I just told now is the best telling of that joke ever. But full circle is me going to the Comedy Store 3 nights in a row. I believe he was night 1, 2, or 3, have no idea. But he was one of the first comedians to get up. The earlier the comedian, usually the newbie. They'll let the newbie break the ice with bad jokes, and they'll let the veteran finish this show with good jokes. That's usually how it went, but not always. Because the Dice Man popped up like on a Monday, like at 8 o'clock. The Dice Man just pulls up in his fancy car, I assume. I was already seated in like the front-ish row, like the second row or something. And there's a crappy comedian slotted for this slot, and the Dice Man shows up, and everyone's like parting like the Red Sea, and he's like, yeah, tells his hilarious jokes, and no one says a word because he's the biggest star in the place, but his jokes actually hit hard. They're hilarious. I was thoroughly... He liked me because I laughed at every one of his jokes, but I laughed at every one of his jokes because I found him actually funny. The guy that comes on after probably chuckled slightly at one joke, you know what I mean? So it varies from comedian to comedian, but I don't think it was that day. I think it was maybe day 2. Wish I got his name. Can't remember. One comedian made the comment, he looks up at the ceiling, he said, "This place is definitely haunted." So the comedians, it's okay for them to say the place is haunted. An observer saying it, they get all threatened. But here's the full circle. On one of the nights I visited the Comedy Store, an amateur comedian I've never heard of, probably no one will ever hear of, gets on stage and tells my exact same mattress at the Goodwill joke. He tells the exact same joke I wrote in 2002, 2003. I'm hearing my own joke being told to me from probably one of the worst comedians I've ever heard in my life. Telling one of the worst jokes I've ever heard in my life, but I've already heard the joke because I already wrote down the joke. Whew. And he bombed hard. And he happened to be wearing a lapel recorder, a lot smaller than this one, but I saw him wearing a lapel mic on his lapel. He actually had a lapel, and he had a mic on his lapel of his jacket. And the reason I observed the lapel so thoroughly is because I knew it was against the rules to record inside the Comedy Store. But it's okay for the comedians themselves to record their own sets, if they have permission with video. And it's a little looser if it's with audio. It's just so he can hear the laughs, so he can find out which jokes worked, which ones did not. Because when you're up there, I'm sure you're so nervous, you can't know which worked. You have to play it back and hear. But he played it back and he heard that old mattress being donated to the Goodwill being such a charitable cause. And that's basically how he put it. He's like, "You ever notice the Goodwill? People are so charitable. The other day I saw someone donate a mattress to the Goodwill. So charitable, so charitable. It's a disgusting mattress full of bed bugs." Even me giving a crappy version of his version he bombed hard on that joke. Even I was like, wow, that's my joke. And the fact is, he made the observation, I made the observation. 2 different people living in 2 different places, 2 different times. What are the chances I would go to the Comedy Store and hear my own joke back to me? That was full circle to me. On to the review of the Ghost Adventures episode with a million tangents out of the way. Aaron Goodwin. He's a good ghost investigator because he gives over-the-top facial expressions, which translates well on camera. Let's face it, on camera, I'm not going to go, ooh, I feel something. Now, I'm not discounting any of his facial expressions. I'm not making fun of any of his facial expressions or any of his reactions to what he feels. I'm just saying it translates good to TV. So he's a good crew member because he's sensitive, and that sensitivity is displayed well for the camera, for actual scientific data. Not everyone would react that way, but he's a good reactor. He repeats what he hears on the spirit box. He has a good ear. He can hear it, better than I can. He does a good job. But he bombed hard when he got up and told some jokes. First of all, there's no audience, but like 3 other Ghost Adventures crew members. But the joke Aaron Goodwin told was, how many ghosts does it take to screw in a light bulb? None. A poltergeist does it. And obviously, not a funny joke, bombs hard. And Zach immediately says, isn't a poltergeist a ghost? And Aaron goes, oh, yeah. It's a joke that they did get an EVP of a ghost laughing, apparently, which would also solidify my theory that I had back in 2018, that the spirits there, or at least one spirit, enjoys it when comedians bomb. Or perhaps spirits enjoy it when they're even mentioned, vaguely. I'll tell you this, there are stories of a poltergeist at the Comedy Store. So Aaron Goodwin, after many years of investigating spirits, doesn't know the definition of poltergeist. Poltergeist, noisy ghost. German for noisy ghost. Everyone knows that. I mean, I'm sure Aaron knew that. He was just telling a joke. He probably made it up 10 seconds before he got up there. You know what I mean? Screwing a light bulb joke, okay? I don't think the entire Ghost Adventures crew know what poltergeists are. I think that separates a lot of ghost investigators from other ghost investigators. Whether you know what a poltergeist is or you don't. At least have a theory about it. At least have some educated theory about it. I know of a surety what every single poltergeist on planet Earth is. Every single poltergeist on planet Earth is a negative entity, period. Negative entity, period. Now, is there going to be a rare exception? Yes. Just like my 99.999% of spirit activity is negative entities and 0.001 is a human saying goodbye to another human that was close to them. Just as that, I would be open enough to say 0.001% of poltergeist activity, in quotes, is not from a negative entity, but a positive spirit. Like a guardian spirit, guardian angel type scenario. For example, a guardian angel would have the power to move an object to get the attention of someone to say goodbye to them. They wouldn't use that power very often or very frequently. For example, if your grandma's spirit is moving stuff around in the basement all night, every night for 6 months in a row, that's not grandma's spirit in any way, shape, or form. It's a freaking negative entity, all right? If it's not a raccoon, go down there and prove it's not a raccoon. Prove it's not rats. Get some evidence that it's an actual spirit. But if you do, it's not grandma's spirit, all right? Grandma's spirit won't hang around for 10 years after she dies, okay? I saw an episode of Ghost Hunters called something else, Ghost Nation, or Ghost whatever. Can't remember what he was called, but he was the Grant guy. His name is Grant. He's one of the co-founders of Ghost Hunters. And he jumped to the false conclusion that some dude's haunting in an old house because grandma used to live there, and obviously he acquired it, the grandson acquired it. Magically, this spirit is grandma's ghost. Don't worry about it, it's just grandma 10 years later, just harassing her grandson to no end, so he can't sleep. Yeah, that's not how grandma's spirit works. Grandma's spirit has ascended to the freaking higher freaking dimensions, okay? Negative entities are harassing the grandson, all right? I'm sure grandma's trying to do something from the higher dimensions, okay? But is limited, all right? There are limitations. The prophecy movies with Christopher Walken are totally false, but they show limitations exist. Angels can only do so much. They're limited by rules and laws they abide by 100%. And that's why they're angels, because they're perfect in their following of the guidelines 100%. That's why they're angels, okay? They're perfect in their observation of the rules and guidelines. Negative entities are the exact opposite because of them breaking the rules, them falling, okay? Fallen angels, all right? Fallen angels aren't going to be moving objects unless they're seriously trying someone, harassing them, bothering them. It goes beyond mischievous purposes and reasons into the realm of heinous and deranged, full-blown, spiritually psychotic reasons to destroy someone's life. Nothing fun about it. I experienced it firsthand, all right? I got through it, but in the process, I learned what poltergeists are. I witnessed poltergeist activity in front of my face. I've seen it literally move objects in front of my face when my eyes were watching it 150 plus days in a row, every single evening, every single night. And I mentioned this at the Comedy Store, and everyone kind of made fun of me for it. They laughed at me. But I wasn't mentioning it to the humans. I was mentioning it to the spirits at the Comedy Store because I wanted them to know that I knew. And perhaps that's why a spirit sparkled a good 6 feet away from me in my peripheral vision. It's hard to say. But most of the time when I was doing anything, it was for the spirits there, not the humans. I kind of ignored the humans. Kind of focused on what would the spirits react to if I said this, did this. So Zach Bagans tells Aaron Goodwin, poltergeist is a ghost. He's like, oh yeah. Some pretty cool, effects happen to the light when they talk about a rest in peace, passed on comedian, which is unexplainable. Some EVPs, unexplainable, other than the place is haunted. Zach doesn't have access to the control panel that turns on and off the stage lights. And he doesn't have permission to even see the control panel. I'm sure the control panel has probably the owner of the Comedy Store sitting there watching what they do on a screen. Something to that effect. The owners of the Comedy Store are very protective of the place. So protective, they didn't give access to the most haunted location in the entire place to the Ghost Adventures crew. If they don't give access to the Ghost Adventures crew to this haunted location, they're not going to give access to anyone. They did go to the basement where there were killings, supposedly by the mob. And Jeff Ross went to the basement with them. And I was impressed and surprised that Jeff Ross went with them to the basement. To the point where I got the thought that maybe they're not allowed to investigate at all without Jeff Ross supervising. I can see comedians in the Comedy Store in general only giving permission to a ghost investigation crew if they are chaperoned by one of their own, by a comedian, by a fellow comedian, Jeff Ross, someone they know and trust. They know they're not going to jack up the place. They're not going to do anything weird. No rituals, just filming, just turn on a couple devices. Sure, they have access to the basement. That's a rarity. That's the greatest secret place they're able to investigate, and then they got to go. Then they got to bounce. They were in the main room and the belly room and the basement. Main room, belly room, basement, that's it. I don't remember them in the original room. And like I said, the most haunted location in the entire Comedy Store is the office. The office is upstairs, above the belly room. Upstairs, above, and adjacent to the belly room. And I think they know they didn't get access. I think Zach would have asked, and he was told no. He didn't get access to the office of the mobster who ran the Comedy Store when it was called Ciro's. Before the Comedy Store was the Comedy Store, it was Ciro's, the hottest club in Hollywood. Marilyn Monroe, we're talking James Dean, everyone. But little did they know, it was ran by a mobster who took it over, and his headquarters was in the office adjacent and above the belly room. It's the highest room, the attic, if you will, to the Comedy Store. So they kept saying how the basement is the core of all this horrific tragedy. Maybe it is, to an extent. But the highest amount of activity, Zach Bagans, I don't think he's watching this, I'm just saying, the highest amount of activity at the entire Comedy Store is the office upstairs that you didn't have access to, that you didn't get into. Because the previous owner, Mitzi, said, before she passed on, rest in peace, that she tried to get the office exorcised by priests, by rabbis, by shaman, year after year after year after year, to no avail. It didn't work. The poltergeist activity continued. And I was like, poltergeist activity? What the heck? No. I think he was from Joey Diaz repeating something he heard. Could have been Bobby Lee. Could have been Joe Rogan. One of those comedians mentioned firsthand what they heard from Mitzi. She hired a priest, a rabbi, a shaman, anyone to clear the space of negative anything. And literally, the office was locked for like 20 years straight, where no one had access to it. Even Bobby Lee said he'd never been inside it, and he'd been performing there for 20 years, and he'd never seen it open. It's always been locked, and he looked through the window, couldn't really see anything. But he said he heard information. So this must have been for Bobby, but I've also heard, it repeated. And it's not the telephone game, okay? When someone hires a shaman and a priest and a rabbi, it sounds like a hilarious joke, but there was no punchline. I guess it sounds like a setup to a joke, but it wasn't a joke, all right? That office is so guarded, and it's guarded by the spirit itself. Spirit was very protective. Some spirits are so protective of the houses they haunt that they'll keep humans away from the actual core of the location they reside in. It's something I wasn't familiar with as a kid in any way, shape, or form. I thought spirits could float through walls, float through anything, and maybe they can. But I never thought spirits had a physical attachment to a physical building, or could, or wanted to hang out in physical buildings. But I think it's negative entities organizing, having meetings with other negative entities. I think it's legions of demons basically having board meetings. Got any ideas for how to destroy Los Angeles? It's already destroyed. Hilarious. Who knows? But I think the Comedy Store is some type of miniature headquarters, maybe more so, on negative entities gathering, perhaps in that office. I don't know. All I know is physical buildings are places that spirits like to pretend they're human. Their dimension is above ours, but it's also intertwined with ours. And they use our land as their own. And I've heard they are territorial. There are territorial spirits that consider it their land. Maybe they consider us temporary residents and that it's permanently theirs. They might think they're promised that plot of land. Who knows? I've theorized many times that they're either assigned to the plot of land, they claim it as their own, thinking they're going to have ownership permanently for eons of this particular location. Or there's some type of soldier that's assigned to do what they got to do at this specific juncture. Now, why would a spirit have to do what they have to do at a specific piece of land? Because if there's millions of spirits, there's enough of them to be spread over the whole planet. Sounds a little crazy. Sounds a little crazy. Until you have a first-hand communication with a poltergeist that moves stuff in your room, and then you realize spirits are real. Poltergeists are real. They're real entities. You hear stories like from Roger Morneau, who said he was poltergeist after he left a devil-worshipping organization, a spirit-worshipping organization, had a front as a spiritualist natural, peaceful, just gonna do a seance here and there, really was a straight up demon worshiping organization behind the scenes. He was kind of sucked into that. When he realized what it was, he really wanted to get out. Was poltergeist harassed for 6 months after he left. I was poltergeist harassed for 6 months, almost on the dot, which tells me 6 months. These entities, they tell time. There's a lot you can learn about spirits. I have a book collection here. I don't have a bookshelf. Stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. This is a long episode. How long we got? 1 hour and 30 minutes. Oh my goodness. Stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. John Razimus Hughston, Mysterialis Ghost Investigation. More episodes coming soon. Yes, I'll be playing Cyberpunk 2077 to chill out and relax and hang out and do what I got to do. Upload some horrendous Cyberpunk videos on my other channel, which makes $0. This channel makes $10. What, every 3 months? Every 2 months? Every 1 month? It goes up and down. It's not about the money. I'm not motivated by money in any way, shape, or form. But I will try to make some new t-shirt designs. I will try to do something cool. If you have any positive feedback, constructive criticism, constructive feedback, let me know. I will go to physical locations and investigate, but I can't do it at my house, my new house. As I said, I'm going to try to go to that haunted church, and my style is to not ask permission, and if anyone shows up, apologize and pay respects, but basically just do sidewalk investigations around the vicinity of places. I never brought any equipment to the Comedy Store. I was tempted, except for the Mel meter, which I did hold outside on the public sidewalk. But I never went in and broke the rules that way. I did walk into the gift shop of the Comedy Store with a camera and a Mel meter on my first day because I didn't realize what it was. I had never been to the Comedy Store gift shop in my life. I didn't know it was the Comedy Store because I'd never been there. I just wanted a picture of, the Andy Kaufman, neon lights, and then I saw these cool pictures on the wall, and I was going to turn off my camera right there. I thought it was going to be like a bathroom. I didn't know what was there. I didn't even know it was a gift shop. I knew the main room was closed, so I didn't know what it was. This is my first time after driving from Arizona to Los Angeles, and they gave me kind of a hard time, thinking I knew what I was doing, thinking I knew I was breaking the rules with no cameras in the building. When I told them, hey, I'm from Arizona, I didn't know about the no cameras rule. I was totally innocent, had no idea. I showed them my Arizona driver's license. I turned off the camera immediately, turned off the Mel meter immediately, and then I bought a Comedy Store t-shirt saying, hey, that's a cool design. I like it. I didn't know this was a gift shop. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think it would be the entrance to the main room because I'd never been to the main room. Never have to this day. Never been to the main room. I hope the pandemic is over soon. I hope Comedy Store opens back up. Hope comedy continues to sprout from that location and people can kick back, 2-drink minimum, have a good time. Stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. Be seeing you.